It's Thursday, September 24th, and time for your Barbados Today Morning News Update. Trade unionist Senator Toni Moore will become the first woman to represent the Barbados Labour Party in the constituency of St. George North. Prime Minister Mia Mottley announced that Moore will be the BLP's candidate in the upcoming by-election, following the decision by Member of Parliament Glenn Clark to vacate the seat on September 30th. At a press conference at the BLP's headquarters last night, Mottley said Moore had been the unanimous choice at all levels of the party to replace Clark, following a meeting of the party's National Executive Council.
Senator Moore, as you know, is the General Secretary of the Barbados Workers' Union. But in her own right, she is a strong woman who is an excellent choice. And the National Council has determined that given her academic, social, and professional background, that she is the right fit for the Barbados Labour Party in this constituency at this time. I'm happy that it is a unanimous choice at all levels of this party's council, and I'm conscious that she is General Secretary of an institution that was affiliated with this party in its first 15 years of existence, up to 65 years ago. The marriage between government and labour, therefore, is not new to this country, but it was determined that given the specific social and economic realities of this country and the pressure on labour, that labour ought to have a dedicated political voice in the House of Assembly, and that we believe that there is a commonality between our interests in representing the working classes of this country.
Admitting that she was humbled to have been selected, the independent senator made it clear she would not be stepping down as General Secretary of the Barbados Workers' Union.
I see myself as an instrument, but this is less about me now and more about you and your beliefs and what is best for Barbados. I am therefore looking forward to meeting with you, getting to know you better. I have not been a party person. Don't hold that against me. Neither do I expect you to hold previous statements made by me of not seeing the necessity to walk the political road. That was taken at a time where that was my belief. But things have changed. Not only COVID has caused change, but experience has changed that. And during the coming weeks and months, we're going to hear a lot of things, a number of opinions formed, a number of attempts to undermine what is on the table right now and the objective that this union, my joining you, is intended to achieve. And anyone who has followed me will understand that I can bear the humps and grumps, because for me it is more about doing and less about being preoccupied with the negatives around.
Clark, who was also present at the meeting, fully endorsed Moore's candidacy.
I must say that she is a tower of strength, and she will add value to the Barbados Labour Party and, of course, to Labour. And I'm looking forward to the campaign. I'll be walking with her. I'll be encouraging all my young people, old people in St. George North to the same support you give me. And last, I must say that I expect her to do better than I do. I expect my people to do better than me. I was able to score 81% of the votes last time. I expect her to do even better than 81%. So I want everyone, those who didn't come out to vote last time, because some of you said that, you know, I'm going to win. I want everyone to come out to vote for Toni in this election.
Sweeping changes are on the horizon for the water sports industry that will see GPS tracking, new certification, stiffer penalties, and new coastal corridors being imposed. Minister of Maritime Affairs and the Blue Economy, Kirk Humphrey, announced that the changes would take effect when new domestic shipping legislation is brought to Parliament in the near future. Cabinet, he said, has already approved the proposal that was presented after an extended period of dialogue between key stakeholders and his ministry.
The order that provides for the corridors, and we're doing it on, I think there are 31 beaches. We've calculated to put down the buoys would cost us about $150, nearly $200,000. We're going to put the lanes down on every beach. I think there are 31 beaches that we've identified. And we've done so, though, in conversation with the jet ski operators and with the water sports operators. So it wouldn't only be jet skis. And the idea is that they're going to have these designated points where you enter and exit. So you enter, you go on the beach, let me say it's Carlisle Bay. You enter at a particular point, and after 150, 200 meters, then it's open ocean. But once you come back in, back into the lane. And we've also put in the legislation no wake zones, which is, you know, if you're moving at a speed past 5 knots or so, you generate some kick up at the back. So in the no wake zones, we know that if you're going above a certain speed, then you're going too fast, and that's also in the legislation as well. And we've also decided on GPSs for the watercraft to ensure that Barbadians are safe.
Also contained in the coming legislation will be a requirement that all operators, except industry veterans, will be required to undergo specialized training, and violators will run the risk of losing their licenses.
In order to operate a jet ski to take people out, we're going to say you need to be at a certain level, and either the Coast Guard or the Marine Police or some other body empowered to do so will do the certification. So we know people will be trained up. But the reality is that on a lot of the pleasure craft now and some other vessels, there are persons who have no training, no certification, no qualifications, and operate these vessels. And what we're doing, what we've put in the legislation, is to ensure that people who operate these vessels must have the level of training. Now, we've grandfathered the people who've been doing it for a number of years, because if you've been doing it for a number of years and doing it right, so all they need to do is to prove they can do it right, they wouldn't need the certification. But people coming in are going to need the level of certification and competency to be able to do it. We've also implemented in the legislation a ticketing system, so that if you violate once, you get a ticket, second ticket, a third ticket, and then eventually you would have revocation of your license.
A regional aviation expert is warning that Barbados and other Caribbean destinations should not expect any turnaround in air travel anytime soon amid the COVID-19 pandemic. Aviation consultant Lesroy Brown said the industry was far from recovering, given that there were several measures now in place that would still hamper travel. He made the comments during the Caribbean Tourism Organization's virtual discussion on the topic, Connecting the Caribbean, Air Links in the Caribbean in the post-LIAT era.
Currently, there is no appetite for leisure travel within the region, not only because of the travel restrictions, but also because there are thousands of jobless persons throughout the region. Many Caribbean countries are ranked among the world's most dependent economies on tourism. And that sector, as we all know, has been seriously affected. Most of the travel in the region for leisure is dependent on some level of pull factor. In the region, those pull factors relate to the carnivals, the cricket, the jazz festival, the music festival, and without those things happening, leisure travel is going to be at a standstill. The other sector, visiting friends and relatives, will largely be dependent on people having the extra cash to travel, and that has dried up for most people. If this thing continues for another couple of months, I think it will get worse for the airlines rather than better.
There's regional and international news after this short break.
Barbados Today, news you can trust.
To news from the region, the head of the Pan American Health Organization tells the region don't pin all its hope on COVID-19 vaccines alone. Instead, PAHO Director Dr. Carisia Etienne said countries must continue other recommended public health measures to contain the virus. Addressing a news conference yesterday, Dr. Etienne warned that countries should not wait for a COVID-19 vaccine to be developed before they start planning and preparing for its arrival.
But this virus will continue to spread and people will continue to get sick even as a vaccine is being rolled out. So we cannot pin all our hope on vaccines alone. As is the case very often in public health, there are no silver bullets. We'll still need diagnostics to identify those who are sick and better treatments to care for those that fall ill. We will continue to rely on traditional public health measures like testing, contact tracing, and quarantines to minimize the spread of this virus. And we will continue to count on people exercising social distancing, washing their hands often, and wearing masks in public to protect others from getting sick. So let me take this opportunity to urge countries around the world to prepare for a corona vaccine, but also to remain realistic, knowing that these preparations do not replace everything else that we must do to save lives today.
And finally, 2 officers have been shot as thousands protest in Louisville after a grand jury decided no one would be charged with the death of Breonna Taylor. Taylor, a 26-year-old hospital worker, was shot multiple times as officers stormed her house on March 13. More from CBS News.
A suspect is in custody. The police department says no names are being released at this time. Demonstrators are outraged over lack of charges for the officers in Taylor's death. She was shot in her home on March 13th. Just one former police detective was indicted for wanton endangerment when he recklessly fired his gun through the walls of Taylor's apartment and into her neighbors. The city of Louisville has been under a curfew. However, you can see there protesters, largely peaceful, but obviously getting violent at times tonight. Again, 2 police officers, we have confirmation, have been shot, though we do not have any information about the suspect who is in custody now or the police officers at this time.
That's news. But for the very latest, visit us at www.barbadostoday.bb. You can also subscribe to our e-paper, email updates, or like us on Facebook, and sign up for our breaking news alerts via WhatsApp. We're also on Izumi Media in bus terminals, as well as screenplay at supermarkets and gas stations near you. And you can also hear us on Mix 96.9 FM and Capital Media HD 99.3 FM.